Hey guys, I am going through a really big terror purge today. I feel a catalyst to the terror that's coming up in my body has been or is retaining my sexual energy. And I've talked about this a lot in the past, but I really feel like for me, retaining my sexual energy is like rocket fuel for the Kundalini transformational process. This isn't something I'm doing intentionally. It's just something that happens within me periodically. I just feel like every now and then life really guides me to start retaining my sexual energy. And when I do that, it just kind of sets off the Kundalini in a new way. It really, brings to the surface latent and deeply buried energies and unconscious, pain, if you will. And most of the time for me, these energies are in the form of terror. And I can feel that they are coming from the depths of my belly. And you might be having fear and terror everywhere if you're in a big purge. But it's kind of important to know like that terror tends to manifest from the belly. Like that's where it emanates from. That's the source of it. Because that's where we push a lot of our terror down when we're children. Or just in general, that's where we shove everything. We just push it down. And so whenever I start retaining my sexual energy, I notice like there's more energy down there, and it starts bringing up this tear that's been in my body. And I've been noticing this tendency within myself to sort of like, there's these unconscious parts of me that are terrified of the terror, and they just really don't want to be with the terror, and they want to like run from it, and they just want to get away from it. It's the mind, it's the psyche, it's the superego. And so I notice when there's terror coming up in my body and I'm having a really big terror purge, especially this terror that comes from super deep. There's, early in the process, it's more ethereal levels. It's more energetic, subtle body levels is what you're purging, and it just kind of flies out of your body really fast. But when you're like 6 years in, the terror that you're purging is just like super fucking gritty. And it's not so much like you're afraid of terror anymore consciously. Because I remember early in the process, it's like that terror would just break me down. And I work with a lot of you guys who are earlier in the phase of purging, and it's like that terror is just like, oh my gosh, it's just like overwhelming and it's all consuming. And it just, I know for me in the past, it would just like bring me to my knees, and I would be in tears, and I just would, just want out. I just couldn't believe how much terror was coming up, and it was just so intense. But I'll say now, like 6 years in, when I have a terror purge, it's a lot different on the level of just how conscious you are with it. So it's not so much it's like, oh my God, terror, this is the worst thing ever. It's not like that. It's just like gritty. It's just like, it's just like, feels like mud. It's like there's so much more of a density to it. It's not as thin, And it moves out a lot slower, it seems, because it's coming from like your guts, It's not like in the energetics. I feel like for me, this is just my personal truth. I've gotten so clear in the energetic subtle body and more of my outer layers. The body has like kind of lots of energetic layers. And for me, it's like the process is really coming into my guts, like into the fucking body, into my bones, into my organs, and that's where it feels like this fear that's coming up, because it's because I'm doing semen retention, And it's been a really powerful catalyst for actually doing deeper and deeper work and deeper clearing. It's like, that's where I feel like the fear is coming from for me at this point in my journey. It's like all the way in, like in the core of my being, it's just like, oh. And I think Cesare once said, when I was in person, and in an in-person retreat with her, she kind of pointed to me, she kind of gave me this pointing like core wound. Yeah, this is the core wound where all those layers of fear manifest from, right? All those outer layers, they all kind of manifest from this deep core place in our being. At least that's what's coming through right now, and it feels intuitive to me and true. And so it's like we release the layers, and we just go deeper and deeper into where all the fear has been manifesting from this whole time. And so like when you start getting to the core of it, it's like, holy fuck. It takes so much awareness and such a deep willingness to be with it, because it's so deep inside of you that like your psyche and your like, you know, your super ego, they're gonna really try to keep you from feeling it, because it's almost like the closer you get to the source of the original fear, the more intense it gets, the hotter the flames are. And so it's like you get, you know, you become a master alchemist on this path. You become comfortable with like the outer layers, and then you become more comfortable. The closer you get, you start building this comfort with being with fear, and then you start getting to a new layer, a new depth with it, and you're like, holy shit. You've kind of reached your evolutionary edge when it comes to being with fear. And so that's kind of the humbling nature of being an alchemist, is you cultivate a sense of comfort with a certain amount of a sensation. And then, you know, life brings you a new layer of that sensation, and it's like a bit beyond your comfort zone, or a lot beyond your comfort zone. And so as an alchemist, you have to cultivate the strength to be with this new layer of fear. You have to cultivate the presence to be able to digest it and transmute it. And so that's kind of how this process works, is you get comfortable digesting the outer layers, and they start to move out, and then you start to feel kind of safer with fear. You know, you start to not be as terrified as your own terror. And then life kind of brings you closer to the source of it all. And then you realize how much of you doesn't feel safe with this like new closeness to the original wound, or to the core wound, you could say. And so you're there for a while, and you're feeling like you're at your edge, and it's a bit uncomfortable, or a lot uncomfortable. And you notice with this new layer, you keep kind of going to the mind, and you keep unconsciously trying to run from it. But over time, you start to cultivate this strength and this presence that can be with this new layer of terror that's more deeply buried within you. And then that layer starts to transmute into light, because that's all that terror is. That's all that fear is, or anxiety. It's just light. And so many of you talk about how much terror you have in your body. Well, my goodness, that just means you have tons of light. And so this is incredible. It's like, so the outer layers, the more ethereal, energetic, subtle body layers, it's like, yeah, it takes time to build the strength and the presence to digest those. But you digest those layers, and all that fear that was in your energy field, it turns into light, it turns into love, it turns into bliss. And then you just keep, and this is the path of embodiment. It's like a lot of us can get really free in the outer layers, but to actually become fully embodied is to become free all the way in the freaking guts of your being. And that's the path of like a Craig Holiday, of a Cesare, of like the fully divine, fully human path, of where we want to become free in this human body. Not just free, you know, we have out here and in our outer field and all that stuff, but free all the way down in the guts, into the belly, into the root chakra. And so that's the path of like alchemizing this animal body into a divine body. And of course, it will probably take many lifetimes to do that. But there have been ascended masters who have come to Earth, as an avatar, and they show us like, hey, this is what's possible in a human body on Earth. And so this is the evolutionary movement we're all going through, and we're going through it together. And I'm just giving you my in-field updates in like year 6 and what it looks like. And like I said, it just feels really clear all out here, like the crown, the third eye, all that stuff. But you start going, you start playing a little bit of a different game. Like when you're going into like, it's like if you were flying towards the sun, you're like adapting to the heat of it, and then all of a sudden you're like, holy shit, this is hot. And it might be a lot for you for a while, but you will adapt. You will adjust, and then you'll get comfortable with that new level of heat. And that's the thing as an alchemist, is like you're always going inward to a new level of heat, to a new level and depth of whatever the wound is, terror, pain, whatever name you want to put towards it. So that's the game I'm playing, is like, I'm starting to cultivate the strength and awareness and presence to be with what's in my guts, and can I actually bring all of this light and this presence all the way into this freaking body, like all the way in, and that sounds amazing. That sounds amazing, but I swear to God, when you start getting into like all the way in, oh, it's so gritty. It's so gritty, and it feels so dense, and it moves slower. It moves slower because there's kind of like, it's more stuck in, In the ethereal levels, it tends to just kind of fly out. And I remember the first couple years of my Kundalini awakening, when I was purging terror, it was just flying out of my body. And that's amazing. And that happens for a while. But then you really empty out, and you get really clear, but you start going to the core wounds, and then it just almost feels like it's emptying out like sludge. And these core wounds can take a lot of time to get really fully embodied, all the way in, all the way down to the root. We can kind of move quick to have like the realizations in the third eye and the crown and the conceptual knowings of this process, and to maybe even experience oneness through the unified heart, right? And that's beautiful. I mean, just to get that far on Earth as a human is like a remarkable blessing and a remarkable act of grace. But getting a lot of chills saying that, but to actually come all the way down into the guts, into the root of your being, and to awaken there, it's like, holy fuck, that's a new level of just embodiment. It's a new level of consciousness. That's very rare. That's very rare. You don't see that a lot, and you'll see quite a bit of people in these expanded heart opening states with the unified heart, knowing oneness, seeing oneness, open crown chakra. But it's very rare to see a being awakened all the way down into their root. And that's when you find one, you're just like, yep, found you, and not letting go, like a Cesare or a Craig. I feel like Julian has a lot of that too. These are the three beings that I go to for guidance on the path. And I think that's why they resonate with me, because I'm on this path of bringing the light all the way down and in, to becoming fully embodied all the way down into the root chakra. So yeah, that's what I'm going through, semen retention and retaining my sexual energy. It's a big catalyst for this process, so it's fun to share that with you guys. It's so amazing, the timing. I have another video coming out today answering a question for someone, and it's called Falling in Love with the Purging Process. And it's all about how when we fall in love with the purging process, that's when the purging process ends, in a sense. In the sense, that's when we stop suffering so much when it comes to the purging process. And I just break down how that happens, and how when we start aligning with the purging process and surrendering to it, and trusting it, like where that takes us in our consciousness, and how we are able to reorient from the egoic consciousness to orienting with awareness itself. I really feel like it's one of my favorites and like most valuable videos I've created on Patreon to date. I just feel like it could really serve a lot of you guys. And then tomorrow I have another really fun Patreon video coming out that it just like lit me up when I was making it. I like literally blasted off into some amazing realm when I was creating it. It just felt like so much light come through because I co-created it with the being who asked it. And I felt like their light was like kind of speaking to them through me, which can happen sometimes in Patreon videos because they are co-creations. A lot of them are some of the like Patreon Sangha members asking me a question, and then I kind of feel into it, and it feels like more than just me speaking the video. Sometimes it feels like, oh yeah, almost like I'm talking directly to them, and then that can like kind of bring a new stream through. And so, and that's the case for today's video too, I was answering a question for someone. So I'm really, really excited about today's and tomorrow's Patreon videos. If that feels inspiring and if it is something that resonates, I would love for you guys to go check those out, become a member. It also really helps support me. It keeps me in this amazing home, getting great rest, eating delicious food, so that I can continue to thrive and give even more. And I just love giving to you guys. I love sharing. So you guys joining the Patreon, it means so much to me. And it's just an honor. It's an honor to co-create with you. It's an honor to connect with you guys in the chat over there and to keep up with your guys' process and to see what you're going through. Just a lot of that going on over there, a lot of good stuff. If you're interested in that, the link for it will be in the description box. So anyways, just sending you all so much love. Thanks for being here. Namaste.